Welcome to TVBS Meeting Room, where we tackle global issues with a view from Taiwan. I'm your host, Wenqi Yu, and today we're speaking to Alexander Gray, who was Chief of Staff of the White House National Security Council under the Trump administration. Let's delve into what a potential Trump-Vance administration's foreign policy might look like. Welcome, Alex. So, former President Trump said in an interview with Bloomberg that Taiwan should pay for US defense. What does he mean by that? How do you interpret that? Should Taiwan be worried?
I don't think Taiwan should be worried, but what I think Taiwan should be focused on is the reality that the United States, in the world that we live in, and this reality of American politics today, the United States is going to expect everyone with whom we have a substantial security obligation and a substantial security relationship to pay large amounts of their GDP toward defense if they want American support, particularly military support.
And Trump also talked about Taiwan taking away the US chip business. So in your view, how will a second Trump administration semiconductor policy be different?
Well, look, I think that the Trump administration, obviously was early on supportive of the type of industrial policy that led to the CHIPS Act. I mean, we have to be able to have a domestic capacity, whether the company who's doing that manufacturing is a foreign domiciled company or it's an American company. They need to have production facilities in the United States for our own supply chain security and our economic security. And so I think you'll continue to see President Trump supporting the type of semiconductor policy that he did in his first term.
We want to talk about the VP candidate, J.D. Vance, because it's a relatively new face and hasn't said much about foreign policy. What, in your view, might he play a role in U.S. foreign policy?
But on foreign policy, I think what he does is he speaks for people who want to focus on rebuilding our industrial capacity at home, who want to rebuild the manufacturing capacity that has been taken away by terrible trade deals over the last 30 years. And I think he's going to be someone who's very focused on China. He's spoken very eloquently about the number one national security threat facing the United States is the Chinese Communist Party. And so I think rather than allowing our foreign policy to diverge into kind of non-core national interests, I think what you'll see is Senator Vance serving as a very powerful voice for the United States staying focused on our paramount national security challenge, which is the PRC.
I mean, is it fair to frame it as sort of the rising of isolationists versus sort of the previous generation, whether it's Republicans or Democrats, who seem to advocate for a more U.S. global leadership, getting involved in many people's business?
So I actually disagree with that. President Trump believed strongly in peace through strength. That's what he believed. That was his foreign policy doctrine. This is the idea that we don't get involved very often because we have a core set of interests and we focus on those core interests.
So let's focus on that, right? You mentioned where the U.S. has core interests. Is Taiwan part of it?
What I will tell you is, if you look at how President Trump governed in his first term, and you look at the way in which President Trump supported Taiwan through the high-level visits that we engaged in, through the arms sales, through the way in which Secretary Pompeo clarified our position towards Taiwan and the contact guidelines, taking away the absurd restrictions on how Taiwan can conduct itself in Washington. I would say that shows just how seriously that we took the U.S.-Taiwan relationship.